There you are. Cool. Good to see you.
I don't know why it took so long. It just
That was
wouldn't.
interesting.
I had a good connection, but I kept clicking on allow and it just wasn't going anywhere.
Oh, that's funky. You home, obviously?
Yeah, I'm home. Yeah.
Do you still work from home?
We have kind of a hybrid schedule.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I've been doing that for almost 15 years. I was
Oh,
working at
wow.
home half time before anyone else was.
Wow. So before you had to.
2000 since 2005, I've been working basically half at home.
Wow.
It's because I had a premature baby. Well, I didn't have
Okay.
a baby, but
Yeah,
um,
gotcha.
yeah. So, and the funny thing is, I got permission to, because my wife and I didn't want to put him in daycare, and we had a lot of stuff going on at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but it worked out so good. I got more work done at, doing that kind of half and half schedule, that they could really never justify bring me back in full time. And then, we talk about being a green company, and instead of me driving 40 miles in and out to work, it just
Right.
stayed that way. So when
Wow.
pandemic hit, it's like, great, now everybody knows my secret. Everybody
Yeah,
else is doing it
totally.
now.
Wow.
But I really
Yeah,
like
I
it.
didn't realize you were working. Not that it matters. It's pretty cool that you're able to, obviously, for so long.
Yeah, normally I'm in on Thursdays, but I had to take my son to an eye doctor
Oh,
this
okay.
morning, just a regular, nothing
Yeah,
drastic.
yeah.
But
Gotcha.
because of the meeting time for this and with the eye appointment, it wasn't worth driving in. So
Right, of course. How far do you live from home office?
about 20 miles.
Okay.
I mean, now that's 20 Utah miles.
Okay, yeah.
So literally, if there's not heavy traffic, I get to the office in like 22 minutes.
Right, gotcha.
20 miles on the East Coast or 20 miles in Seattle, it's like
Right,
half
it's
the
all
day.
relative.
Yeah. So really,
I'm from
it's
New Jersey, so again, like 20 miles could be an hour or an hour and a
yeah.
half or so.
So for
It's all
me,
relative when it comes to that.
I literally can get on the freeway in about 2 minutes and 70 miles an hour. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you've gotten a little taste as to what the craziness of my group, it seems.
Yeah, it's all over the place for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of
I
interesting.
try, we do our best not to make any claims when it comes to all perspectives as far as people pushing products and stuff. It's just not cool. And I know how strict USANA is, so I kind of take that approach. Like, do not make a claim you cannot back up, because we don't want to biting us on the ass, obviously, either. Like, this person was told they can cure XYZ with whatever. So it is all over the place, like you said, so as far as claims and stuff people talk about and so forth. But we do our best. Like I said, we do our best to kind of keep it under control. But you can only do so much with 54,000 people.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, my Facebook page that I started and that I run for Ask the Scientist, we have like, well, I think about 1.1 million followers.
Right.
And it's at the point where I don't really even give it much of a personal touch anymore. There's just it's more of just now a place I can continue to post
Right.
health related articles, but it's way beyond like an inner
Right.
way beyond an interactive type thing.
Exactly. And
I don't have time. Yeah.
you probably get people from Africa and like other countries that we can't service.
Yeah. The majority of people are from Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia,
Okay.
Timor-Leste, which is a small island north of Australia.
Okay.
Like,
Interesting.
yeah, all over Africa, all over the Middle East, even where it's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, some of those, again, some of those we service as far as like you can get a product, other countries you can't send a link to the Cell Essentials, or you can't refer, obviously. So they only cover so much, obviously. Yeah, so you kind of get an idea of like what people talk about. One of the most common questions I see, and ask is the whole food supplements versus pharmaceutical grade and so forth, and GMP and the different ranges. From before you go live, from my understanding, can they guarantee X amount of vitamin C in a whole food juice plus type of thing?
No, not usually, not unless they
Okay.
are measuring for it. If they're just putting in whole food powders, which is what most of those kind of companies do,
Right.
oh, it's got 50 fruits and vegetables. They don't have any idea what's in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
As far as levels of
right.
vitamin E or whatever.
Yeah, on Juice Plus, if you look at the label closely, you'll see that
Okay.
some of the ingredients are listed. But then if you go into the actual ingredients, what they've done is they've actually added beta carotene, folic acid. It's not even coming from the fruits and vegetables they're putting in there. They have to
Right.
add it specifically so they can make a claim on the label. So
Your friend Susan Kleiner did a brief podcast about athletic greens and how there's no vitamin D in it. So when Athletic Greens sells or markets their product, they say when you buy Athletic Greens, we'll give you vitamin D free for a year because there's no vitamin D in Athletic Greens.
yeah, well, there's a lot of other problems with those kind of products too. So
Yeah, I didn't know if you were even familiar with that. I was just listening. I saw a podcast. I'm like, this is
yeah,
interesting. So that's why they'll give you the bottle of vitamin D because there's no vitamin D in a sense.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hot. Like it's hot and sexy. Like I'll just take my greens instead of a pill. Yeah, so like I said, just kind of very casual in a sense, in interview style. Like I said, introduce yourself,
Yeah.
your experience. Was it 25 years with USANA and then 30 years in the field or whatever?
Oh yeah, more than that, but
Okay.
I'll give my background really quick, and then after that, you just kind of
Cool. Okay.
you can ask about the study
Yeah,
and
yeah.
talk about that, and then like what products do I take?
Right.
Those other questions. You just lead, and I'll just follow.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going by your LinkedIn as far as your experience. So that's kind of what I was referring to. Just pulling up the share to Facebook in a second. In my group. No. Cool. Looks like go live. Just click go live, so I'll get a notification on my phone in a second.
Says it's now streaming live on Facebook.
Awesome. Good to see you. This is Chris Bourne here. A very, very, very special guest, my friend Russell Barton. Russell you can introduce yourself as a senior nutrition scientist, has many years in the nutrition science and supplement fields. We're going to do a little talk about a Jumpstart program that I've kind of spoken about in the past, and Russell's going to share preliminary results of a scientific study that was done with it. And we're also going to do some questions, the common questions we receive when it comes to supplements, nutrition, and even potentially some tips after the holidays, after July 4th. You can introduce yourself, Russell.
Sure. My name is Russ Barton, and Chris was a little nice as far as saying how long I'd been in the field, probably trying to make me feel younger. But I've actually been in one way or another in the field of health and fitness for about 44 years. I started out playing a lot of sports. I was very active. At about the age of 15, 16, my dad gave me the choice of either taking karate or joining a gym. And I had just seen this cool book about Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is back in the 70s, before most people even knew who he was. And I started going to the gym and dropped all the other team sports I was playing and started bodybuilding, and begged the manager for a job so I could get tanning in the gym free. So I literally started as a personal trainer at 16, and have been in the field one way or another since then. My bachelor's degree was in zoology, and then I got a master's degree in nutritional science. Since then, it took me about 4 years to find the right opportunity when I walked into USANA, and with quite a bit of trepidation, I'll say, not really expecting much. Because in between my master's and then I'd worked for a big weight loss company, done just kind of, I taught college for a couple years in nutrition, but nothing real steady. I was surprised when I walked in and found that the scientists there were so much like me, very skeptical. Just, I was shocked. And so I basically told my wife, if I'll give it a shot, but if I'm ever embarrassed, I'm out of there. So here I am, 25 and a half, almost 26 years later. USANA has been great because they really supported some further education on my part. In 2000, I certified as a certified nutrition specialist with the American College of Nutrition. Then in 2003 and 4, I went to Harvard continuing education on obesity and weight loss. Got some real practical application to the science that I already knew. Then in 2005, I certified as a certified sports nutritionist with the International Society of Sports Nutrition. I guess my one claim to fame with that is I was in the very first group to certify with this organization, and now they're the premier sports nutrition organization in the world. So I've been around, and what's been nice with my job at USANA, I've always been involved with health and science education. And so a large portion of my job has always been answering questions and customer relations, and helping take science information and make it, turning it into information the layperson can understand. And I figured about 5 years ago, I took an estimate of about 150,000 questions I've answered. So there's probably very few people on the planet that have actually answered more unique health and science education type questions than I have. So the advantage I've had is that's given me the opportunity to research every day. So since 1997, I've been literally researching every single day as part of my job. I've seen all the trends, I've seen the ups and downs, I've seen the wonky stuff, I've seen everything. I say that, but then every time I think I've heard it all, every day I get new interesting questions. So I really feel fortunate to have found a company that really supports my, and not just me, but all of us scientists at USANA get very good support in our continued education. In fact, right now I'm actually working on a certification in nutritional genomics. I'm super psyched about it because this has been a field I've been interested in for a long time. I got into genetics and molecular biology when it was a brand new thing back in the 80s, the mid 80s. And now it's kind of come full circle. And now I'm working on certifying as a nutritional genomics specialist. So kind of psyched about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So pretty basic question. What exactly is a senior? I know what senior is. Senior nutrition specialist scientist. Is that, from the certification perspective, is that very well versed, obviously, but can you give an ABC of what that means in a sense?
No, actually, my real title right now is a senior manager.
Okay.
But I think the senior is just because I'm old and I've been there a long time.
Okay.
You know, they're just being nice to me.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, since I've been there, kind of since the company was only in the US and Canada, and now we're in 24 countries. So I've been there from the beginning for the most part. So
That's awesome. And like you said, you've answer millions of questions in a sense, and you've seen a very wide range of spectrum of questions at ABC 1, 2, 3 in a sense. We're a couple days past July 4th, a few days in the US at least. Very busy, very common weekend partying, drinking, nothing wrong with it inherently. And we recently found out about a really interesting study that was done with the Jumpstart program. With the Jumpstart, if you can share a little bit about what it is, and also would the Jumpstart program be beneficial if you're looking to kind of get back into the groove after a busy weekend of a little overindulgence and so forth?
Okay, yeah, sure. Jumpstart program is very similar to other meal replacement programs. Maybe you've seen, the original Slim Fast was, you replace a meal with a drink. We've always had very good meal replacement supplements that are a good balance of protein, fat, carbohydrates. They're high fiber, low glycemic. So what we did basically is integrated those shakes into a program of replacing meals. At the very beginning, the Jumpstart, you're replacing all 3 meals with these shakes, and in between 200 to 300 calories worth of fruits and vegetables. So it's roughly about 1,000 calories is what it turns out to be. I got great news for you, and I didn't even tell you this. As of yesterday, we were only going to talk about preliminary results, and I got the link this morning to the published paper that just went out today.
Cool, it's awesome.
So it's actually been published, and I'm just going to kind of, because I didn't participate in doing the study, so I don't want to leave off anything, but basically it was 26 adult men and women that were overweight or obese did this Jumpstart program. And again, we're talking about a 240 calorie whole, meal replacement shake. And then 3 to 4 servings of fruits and vegetables. It also includes a probiotic and a broad spectrum vitamin and mineral supplement. Because you definitely want to take micronutrients when you're dieting. Not only are you not eating as much as normal and you're not going to get as many nutrients in your diet, but contrary to what most of us know, some of those micronutrients actually are important for metabolism and weight loss itself. So if you're really low in certain things like calcium, you may be slowing yourself down without even knowing it. So a good multivitamin is important. The probiotic, of course, is to assist gut health and your microbiome and these shakes. So they did this for 7 days. Then their body weight and fat were determined before and after through a DEXA exam. Blood was collected, and the basic results were that it was well tolerated. There was a significant change in diastolic and systolic blood pressure, even in 1 week. Probably the most surprising thing was after only 1 week, total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol dropped 15 to 20%.
Wow, that's amazing.
Crazy to think of that in 1 week. The little caveat there is that HDL also went down a little, and you don't really want that, but more than likely over the long term, if you're adding some animal protein, you're also gonna, you're gonna kind of keep that HDL level steady or increased. There were clinically relevant reductions in the blood pressure, cholesterol, also in fasting glucose levels. So for people that are pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic or whatever, really concerned about steadying their blood sugars, especially their fasting blood sugars, it was good for that. And also things that aren't necessarily things you think of, that aren't maybe scientific measures, they're more subjective. but there were favorable changes in self-esteem, energy, motivation, and physical appearance. So is this kind of program perfect for everybody? No. I mean, there's no one weight loss program that will fit everybody's desires or needs or lifestyle, of course. But the real benefit of a meal replacement program like this, though, is if you're someone who's really busy, or you tend to snack a lot, or you have a lot of times when you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to cut back and then you have to cook, you're thinking about food all the time. It's very hard to kind of maintain that motivation. So meal replacements sometimes can be really beneficial because they're very cut and dry. You know exactly what you're getting. They're portion controlled. And so one thing that we found with this study too also was the hunger. There was no significant increase in hunger. So they worked well enough to keep people satiated, and their hunger index did not go up, which is really important, of course. So it's a great way for, some people definitely note that it helps them break their habits with sweets maybe, or it helps kind of, we used to call it a reset. I still like the term reset, because I kind of feel like, it's giving you a chance to kind of, up till today is today, and you can reset yourself. And again, it's just a little bit of a jump start. That makes sense too. But and the results from this study, we're continuing on now with a longer term study. So this is just kind of part one. But this also just confirms what we found 13 years ago when we published our last study on the Reset program, using similar products. And that was published in the Journal of Obesity. And we did find good evidence for reducing some of those markers of cardiovascular disease, and things like blood pressure and cholesterol levels and so on. So the main point I want to make is, a lot of times when we set goals to lose weight or to be healthier, we initially set them a little unrealistically. We're thinking, okay, I'm here and I want to be there. I want to get into the clothes I was in high school or whatever. And that's all fine and good sometimes. But really, a weight loss of only about 5 to 10% is where you start seeing the actual benefits with real risk reduction. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you lose 10 pounds, you're already going to start seeing health benefits just from that first 10 pounds. So
that's awesome.
To really think, shoot for that 5 to 10% first. That's really where you're going to get the health benefits. And then, if you have other reasons aesthetically, for clothes, or just you want to get in better shape, keep going for sure. But too often people look at this goal down there at the end, and then when they get, there'd be a lot of people that would lose that first 10% and think they failed because they were trying to lose 50, but they didn't fail. If they would have just stayed there and then creeped it down, they'd be in good shape. So
absolutely. A common question, so valuable, and as far as the results, when it happened over the course of the 7 days and so forth, and but a couple months ago I saw kind of the sample size. But a common question, that's not laughing, but it's kind of a common question we get is, excuse the term, what the hell are all these ingredients? And I'm sure you receive that too. What is this ingredient, as it may turn out to be just vitamin E in the chemical form in a sense? So if you can kind of just give a little explanation of not every ingredient, but just in a sense of what this all is.
No, and to put it really simply, a lot of it's just the fact that we're ignorant of what's actually in foods, let alone a food product. If we were to label the all the compounds that were in an apple, it would be a list of organic chemicals, 3 pages long. But we just call it apple. Okay, people are
Right.
comfortable with that. It's an apple. But all of the foods that we eat are loaded with all sorts of things. They're not just 100% nutrients.
Right.
In fact, an orange, I was looking it up for another reason, and only about 13% of the orange is vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber, and protein, fats, and sugar. So what's the rest of the 87%? There's all sorts of healthy compounds, maybe neutral compounds. There's all sorts of things in there. So I really, really hate this idea that people promote often, that if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. That the fact that you don't understand what a chemical is, it does not make it safe or unsafe.
Is it like water? Water is H2O, but we don't label it as H2O. We label it as water. Or
Well, and that's an
something-
abbreviation. If you want the chemical name for water, it'd be something different anyway, too. So
Right, exactly.
yeah, that's just that's really not an appropriate way to look at whether something is safe or effective.
Okay.
A list of, and that happens when people look at the shakes and they
Right.
see this list of things. What they don't realize is 2/3 of those long words they're looking at are the vitamin and mineral mix that's put in the product. They're just the vitamin names.
Calcium is calcium and whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, that's not really, unfortunately that gets a lot of traction in places, but the length or complexity of a name has nothing to do with its safety or
Right, gotcha. Because it's a
potency or
common
anything.
question, and you're like a label detective and looking, okay, what is this? And I Google, what is this, and this, and then is this good for me? And what is this? Another question, you probably see this a million times too, maltodextrin. It's like, okay, maltodextrin is connected to cancer and 0.1% or whatever. How is it used? What is the form and so forth? Because it is a common question. We get, why is this in there?
Well, all maltodextrin is not the same. Maltodextrin, essentially all maltodextrin is a chain of connected glucose molecules.
Okay.
It's just a little starch.
Right.
So, do you want to eat too much of it? No. It's a high glycemic starch, but again, it depends on the context of its use. It depends on how much you're eating. There's nothing about it innately that's bad. It's just about the context of how you use it.
Okay.
So, and that's a principle that's pretty similar among most things, really.
Right.
It's the dose that makes the poison for the most part. We're exposed to a lot of things we can't help, which is why you support your body with things that help your normal detoxification processes, right? Your breathing, your kidneys and liver and lungs and skin excrete things. You keep that system running by exercising, having a healthy lifestyle, hydration, all those things. And you keep your exposure, it's important to keep exposure to a minimum where you can. But you can't avoid everything, and that's not,
right. Not realistic.
It's not realistic. And I like I said, it's really sad to me that the level of scare tactics that are used. There's an actual term for people that are essentially afraid of their food, which is called orthorexia.
Right.
And it's a real thing. People end up with bad eating disorders and malnutrition because they're so worried about the content of their food and the ingredients that it literally paralyzes them. So I get it. Like I said, I've been in this industry forever. I know all sides of it. I get it. I understand. But if you're taking care of yourself the way you should be, if you do the things you can control, like getting a restful sleep, getting 150 minutes of exercise a week as a minimum, eating a healthy, varied, balanced diet as good as you can, and then taking a quality multivitamin mineral supplement, because no one eats perfect. I've never ever known a person that does, including myself. And then also manage your stress. That's another factor, and be well hydrated. I mean, if you're doing all those things perfectly, or to the best of your ability, the other little peripheral things matter less and less.
Right.
Like or you can look at it the other way and say, okay, I'm doing all these things right. Now I can go down and I can get nitpicky, but if you're nitpicky about things and you're not doing all the other things right, you're not going to make much of an impact anyway. So people need to learn.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Keep going.
Brittany, the other admin, and I, we talk a lot about the importance of emotions and healthy emotions and how that affects us and stress and anxiety and stuff. And like you're saying with orthorexia, if you worry too much, that's going to cause stress in your body. Your body's not going to be able to digest it. It's going to cause issues on the further down the line in a sense. So worry does not help the cause. If you're worrying about every little thing in the matter, because it's going to cause cortisol reactions and everything else, blood you're release. So it's like, I want to do my best, but yet you can't at the moment, and doing your best not to worry about every little bit and piece in a sense, like you're mentioning.
Well, you mentioned cortisol. That's, of course, chronically high cortisol is bad, of course. That will suppress your immune system and causes all sorts of problems. But even unmanaged stress can even affect the way your genes are expressed. And there's even evidence in some studies showing that some of that unmanaged stress affects gene expression in the next generation. So find a way to manage it. Everyone's going to have maybe a different way. Do hot yoga, go take a walk in the woods. Obviously, regular exercise in itself for most people is a way of managing stress on top of it. So, but no, that's you certainly can't ignore that. You can eat perfectly, and if you're not managing stress and sleeping well, you're going to have some issues.
I've been there, and many people have been there as well. It's like, you're doing everything you can, but again, your body's not going to digest the food when you're stressed out, and just going to have kind of a chain reaction in a sense. Like you're saying, from all perspectives, do your best for the general public in a sense. Do your best not to become ingredient detective in a sense of what is this for, or why is it there, type of thing, because that's just going to information overload, and you're gonna turn off in a sense. So I guess that's kind of a basic answer to all that.
Yeah, I mean, and I get that's easier said than done. I mean, because you really know what's in it, but unfortunately, like, we can't do without the internet. I would never go back to having to check out my master's thesis research in the library, and like what we had to do before was so cumbersome. But it also comes with the negative that there's far more misinformation than there is good information. And if you don't know how to find it, especially in the health field, you're going to get swamped in a lot of marketing, and just, there's just so much misinformation. If you don't know where to look for it, you end up more confused than you started out. So,
and then
maybe talk
paralysis
to
analysis
trust to give you some good websites or some good sources of information, maybe, if you really, really want to look into it. But I would just say, be careful when you look up stuff on the internet and Google. The first things that come up are not always, just because they're the most common does not make them accurate. Sometimes the most common things are the least accurate.
With regard to, we're talking about meal replacement shakes, so to speak, and again, USANA is very transparent. Now, probably more than I do in a sense, as far as they're going to put, if it's in the bag, if it's on the bottle, it'll be there. They're very transparent. So what's the difference between, say, an active NutriMill versus a shake, protein meal replacement shake that says it has 80 whole foods? Is there kind of I don't mean if this is a weird
Yeah,
question.
I mean, it's hard to comment on, I can't really comment on anybody else's product because I don't.
No, of course, gotcha,
have-
okay.
But I know kind of what you're getting at with the Whole Foods kind of thing. And let me
Right,
just say right up front, that there's no replacing a healthy, whole food, balanced
right,
diet. Like no supplements, no whole food I don't care what anyone calls them. There's no replacing the benefits of a healthy diet. So when these products come out and say, oh, I've got 30 vegetables and fruits in this little capsule. Okay. Most of those don't have hardly anything in them. Especially if they're, and we don't use a lot of whole food powders for that very reason. Unless they're standardized, you don't know how much of the active ingredients in there. They're also much more difficult to work with from a safety standpoint. There's a lot of microbiological things in a lot of the organic foods and in a lot of these whole foods. We've started and stopped many a lot of different products that were in development have been stopped because we simply couldn't find a raw material that met our purity standards over time. And a lot of them are real commonly used too, but we're very careful about using ingredients that not only function up until the expiration date, but that are safe. You don't have a lot of microbial growth or yeast or mold or anything like that. And so a lot of these whole food powders, I mean, you're getting a dried powdered piece of that fruit, but you don't really know what you're getting unless it's standardized and measured. So
so you don't know how much
I really
sulfur
don't like
you're
those
getting
kind of
in
products.
and
I was just gonna say, the problem I have with those kind of products is the implication that if you're eating those, I mean, if you're not, they usually say things like, well, if you can't eat all your fruits and vegetables, eat these, but that's not replacing your fruits and vegetables.
right.
It's just not. So I'm not a big fan of those type of products unless they have specifically measured ingredients and you know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good marketing thing to say I've got X amount of things in there and get this big long list of things. But trust me, from R&D experience, from being behind the scenes and all the testing and stuff, those products are often very difficult to they're difficult to work with from a purity standpoint.
Okay, gotcha. And that's both from a shake perspective in addition to a pill perspective.
Yeah, either way.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, just want to kind of cover bases in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, we have ingredients that are extracted from foods, of course, and sometimes those are the best ingredients, but they're not automatically the best ingredients. For instance, if you're using melatonin to reset your circadian clock and get good rest, melatonin is something that's found primarily in animal brain, and there's no real good food source of melatonin. So the best option is a good synthetic. I mean, melatonin is a very easy compound to synthesize. It only takes like 3 steps. It's a very simple compound, but natural sources are just not viable. I mean, there's little bits in different foods. There's little tiny bits, but not really something that you could, consistently measure and again, just not really viable for a product.
Interesting. I never knew where melatonin came from, and now I know. Now I know vitamin D is sheep's wool, lanolin, I believe. But I never knew that.
That's a starting point. Vitamin D, you start with cholesterol, and you get cholesterol from the sheep's wool.
Gotcha. Okay.
At the end, there's no sheep wool in it. It's all there's so many, there's many steps, and then it's purified and everything. So in the end, all you really have is just the vitamin D molecule.
Okay.
But yeah, you have to start with cholesterol, which is why it automatically is a animal vitamin D for the most part is an animal derived raw material. There are newer options. Vitamin D3 from lichens is something that we have looked at. When we looked at it initially, it wasn't, again, really viable for all of our markets. But I think with time, there'll probably be a vegan sourced vitamin D3 that will end up kind of taking over. But it's just not quite there yet for us.
And like kind of what we've been getting at as far as synthetic versus natural, that's a relative term. Synthetic is like maybe a turn off for some people, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It just means it's okay.
I mean, natural, if the idea that natural equals good and synthetic equals bad, that's much too black and white. I mean,
okay.
Obviously natural some of the most potent toxins on the planet are naturally derived.
Right.
Ricin from castor beans and, snake venom and, you name it. There's a lot of natural doesn't necessarily mean safer or better.
Right.
But that's why we look at each individual nutrient when we're doing our products. We make a determination based on each individual nutrient and the purpose of the product and so on, rather than just take a philosophical thing and just jam it in there. So, I understand, though, like I said, there's a lot of people that have a philosophical aversion to the word synthetic, but yet here we are, everything surrounding us is synthetic to a degree for the most part, right? I mean, we're not living off the grid in a log cabin. So yeah, you got to kind of pick and choose, but it's just not a black and white thing. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you really have to.
Exactly. There's no one size fits all. There's no yay or nay type of thing.
Yeah, there's not a one size fits all thing. Yeah.
Right. And this may be a technical question, or you don't have to go there, but when you say synthetic, it's synthesized from something, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean,
okay, that's what I figured. That doesn't just come out of thin air. It's synthesized from something else.
No, you take starting materials. I mean,
right.
Yeah, and I did take organic chemistry and organic chemistry lab in college and biochemistry and all that. People much smarter than me know what compounds to start, that are used. And again, I don't want to get too far out of the weeds with this, but you're not consuming the starting materials, you're consuming the end product. So it's like when you look at glycemic index and somebody says, why do you have this particular sugar in this drink that's high glycemic? Well, that would be true if you were eating it in isolation. But when you add it to everything else in the product, you're eating the product. You're not eating the ingredients individually. So again, starting materials aren't all really always that relevant.
Okay.
Because at the end, they go through a lot of steps and a lot of things for purification and a lot of things like, does it really matter where you get your fish oil from? In the end, it doesn't matter too much, but it's better to use the smaller fish with shorter lifespans because manufacturing wise, they're already less contaminated than the bigger fish. So you don't have to, it doesn't take as much to purify them down to a healthy level as it would, a big sport fish, for example.
Right. Gotcha.
In the end, you're basically getting the same thing. If the purification process is done right, in the end, you're getting basically the same thing. I don't know that, I guess this is probably getting a little too far off in the.
No, it's
Believe
it's very valuable because questions come up. I'm sure I'll get to see some tomorrow when I go through the questions. So what is a good fish oil, or what should I look for in a fish oil? What is a good natural supplement brand? And again, it's gonna go into what we're talking about in a sense of like natural is relative. You can get poison is natural, but poison is not good in a sense. So you want to make sure, like, it's as synthesized as pure as possible. And like I said, the starting point of the vitamin D is the sheep's wool, but it goes through a big process to get to the pill, correct?
Yeah. And,
Okay, gotcha.
Speaking of poisonous is relative, some of the compounds that we know that are very healthy for us, like resveratrol, citrus bioflavonoids, those kind of things, they part of what makes them beneficial to us is that they have toxic compounds in them. I mean, those ingredients are basically the defense mechanism for that plant. They contain alkaloids and compounds that protect the plant from predators. But to us, we're not a fly or a gnat or a little caterpillar. For us, what it does is it influences cell signaling cascades, because it basically mimics a toxin enough that the body goes, oh, we need to produce more antioxidants. So it doesn't do us any harm. It basically gets the process started without any harm, and it's actually very beneficial for us. So
Interesting.
Again, it's all, we get too caught up in black and white
Right.
terminology, but there's so much more to it than what most people understand. So,
And like we were talking about earlier, just do your best not to get overwhelmed by it, because you'll get to paralysis analysis and your brain's going to turn off.
well,
That
like
doesn't
I
help the
said,
cause.
I've been in this field for 45 years and I don't know everything. So,
Right.
That's okay. You shouldn't know everything.
Absolutely.
Kind of a good scientist is they're smart enough to know that they don't know everything. So
Exactly. And it's a couple more questions that we've gotten pretty often is should you go for individual, just a vitamin B6 and vitamin B12, vitamin C and D, or a whole round of multivitamin mineral?
Okay, that's a really good question. And with very few exceptions, I would say you're much better off taking a balanced supplement with all of them. And here's why. First of all, unless you are testing, or unless you're getting a diagnostic exam on each one of those nutrients, which nobody really does. And I'll get back to that in a second, because I know that was a common question just about basically personalized stuff. Most of the studies that have been negative as far as associated with, say, beta carotene in smokers, folic acid and prostate cancer, things like that, they've always been done using high doses of just a singular ingredient or just a couple ingredients. And so it's kind of a little bit not fair, right? Because people don't normally take them that way. That's not how you get it in your diet, and it's not how you normally take it in a supplement. Who takes 50,000 IUs of beta carotene by itself and smokes 4 packs of cigarettes a day? Like, that's not relevant to normal usage. When those studies have been done over again in a moderate dosage with other antioxidants, you don't get the same negatives. In fact, you get some protection. So I think because you don't know what you're low in, and because you don't eat perfectly, and I say you because everybody, like we're pretty much all in this situation, you're better off just taking a good, well-rounded, broad spectrum vitamin and mineral product to cover the bases. Because how would you know? Honestly, Chris, you know what products maybe are high in calcium, right? Or what's high in, maybe what is a good source of folic acid or something like that. Would you know if you were low in copper?
No. Don't
right?
think
But
about
you know
it.
what? But copper, believe it or not, is really important. I mean, it plays a role in collagen production, heart health. If you were chronically low in that and didn't know it, you know, you could be affecting your cardiovascular health. And so unless you really were crazy rich and bored and didn't have anything else to do and could test every single one of these nutrients you need legitimately, you're better off just covering the bases.
And you'd have to be test your body every month, every 2 months to know,
Well,
like,
think about it. You don't eat the same thing every day.
right, exactly.
So, I mean, even if you knew where you stood today, is it really exactly the same next week? Probably not.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
this is the way I look at it. When somebody says, why should I supplement? Okay. And I know people get that question. Doctors throw that question to people, you know, when they say, oh, you don't need to supplement. Just eat a healthy, balanced diet. Okay. Playing devil's advocate. How many of you out there get 5 to 13 servings of varied colored fruits and vegetables every single day? Maybe a few hands, not very many. How many eat 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish every single week? How many get regular consume lean meats, nuts, seeds, and legumes regularly? How many people get 25 to 35 grams of fiber every day? You know, you start thinking this stuff. Okay, and let's say somebody says, oh, I do all those things. Well, then are you accounting for the nutrient losses when you prepare your food? What about the nutrient loss during storage? Drying fruit, for example, you lose about 80% of the vitamin C just from drying the fruit. There's a lot of other good reasons to dry it and eat that versus maybe other non-nutritive foods at all, but you do lose a lot of nutrients with food preparation as well. So, and then of course, lastly, like I said, how would you know if you were really missing some of those trace nutrients that we don't even really think about?
Right. Exactly.
So there's a good reason. And that's, if someone were to ask me, what supplements do I take every day? It would be foundationally the good vitamin and mineral product. I take a vitamin D, extra vitamin D every day because my levels are just low. They just are. And my father's are low as well. So I don't get out in the sun an awful lot, which is why I look 58 when I'm 60. But and a fish oil supplement I also take for cardiovascular benefit. So I've got them. So if those are the 3 that I take all the time.
Right. Those are your baseline.
Those are my baseline. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. And it's I appreciate coming from a scientist who's been in the field for quite a while, on the research side and the personal use side and so forth, to really emphasize the importance of like I said earlier, and try not to be detectives when it comes to the ingredients and so forth, and realizing that what you see, even though it may look intimidating, it's just vitamin E, which our body needs anyway, which is a form of vitamin C or calcium and so forth. So there is a reason why it's there. It's in a product. It's even though it's overwhelming, trying not to overwhelm ourselves with all the information. It's pretty much a common thing when I see with people too as well.
You know, and I will say, I get the people that I get being concerned about extra things that don't need to be there, all the, food dyes and colors and things like that, I mean, you still have to be careful there too, because some foods, turmeric has been used as a dye for centuries. I mean, turmeric is also an amazingly beneficial food. So just because something can stain something really good or be used as a dye doesn't make it specifically bad either. But and we tend to use, for instance, in our energy drink, we use black carrots, which is a variety of carrots that gives it kind of a pink color. So I mean, I'm not saying don't care what's in, what the
Right.
ingredients are for sure. I certainly
Of
don't want
course.
you thinking I don't care about that,
Right.
but then again, I'm too busy trying to work on the other macro parts of me,
Of course.
trying to maintain a healthy weight and being active and stuff. I really don't have time to be super concerned about things other than just trying to eat as good as I can.
Absolutely.
And you see the posts I put up on Facebook. I mean, I eat probably more fruits and vegetables than most any omnivorous person that I know.
Right. One other question with regard to ingredients, because again, it's like comes up often and be able to reference this talk quite often, hopefully, is excipients. You know what I'm talking about in vitamins when it comes to people say, what is a good multivitamin without any extra ingredients? And the extra ingredients is sunflower oil, guar gum, organic guar gum. So if you can just a little brief of like why it's there.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is most of those things are necessary for the function of the product. I mean,
Okay.
excipient tableting is a science. But let me give you an example. Okay, so in our multivitamin mineral product, we have 40 plus ingredients, give or take. First of all, if that was in a capsule form, you'd be taking about 16 to 20 capsules instead of 8, because in a tablet you can compress them a little more, but there's only about 8 to 10% other ingredients in those, just enough to provide a coating for swallowing and to help the tablet break apart correctly. If the tablet doesn't break apart correctly, then it doesn't matter what you have in the tablet, right? It can be the most perfect ingredients, but if the tablet doesn't break apart and release those ingredients, it's pretty useless. So some of those ingredients are important. But let's use the example of vitamin D, for example. So we have these little 2000 IU vitamin D tablets. 2000 IUs is 50 micrograms. Okay, a microgram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram. 50 micrograms is about the amount of half a grain of salt. And I'm not talking like the big chunk Himalayan salt or anything. I'm talking the iodized little tiny grains of salt. So if you're going to provide 2000 IUs of vitamin D to somebody, and that basically takes up the amount on the end of a head of a pin, how are you going to provide that to them? You have to put it in a tablet or
Right.
a liquid or something. And so vitamin D is going to be 99.5% other ingredients. That's just the nature of it. Like, how else would you provide that to somebody?
And that's a small pill as it is.
Yeah. So, and the majority of that is if you want it to be stable, you want it to be, I mean, again, most of these are meant to be stable for a couple years. But anyway, it's the same thing, like I said, in food with the orange, right? Most of the orange are other ingredients. Does that mean they're wasted or not necessary? No, we don't know, right? I mean, but it's the other ingredients shouldn't be a reason to avoid a product on its face. It depends on what the ingredients are for and how many are in there and what they're used for. And so, yeah, you can, just like anything else, you can make a bad tablet with crappy other ingredients, or you can do it right and use just enough so that the tablet functions like it's supposed to. And I mean, that's up to the company making the products, obviously, but
of course. And as you said, there's 50 usable ingredients: vitamin C, vitamin D, E, and A, etc. You can't just glue them all together in a pill. There has to be some kind of substance to the pill to, as you said, make it break down effectively.
yeah,
That's kind of it's want to make it as easy to break down for the public and those in the group as far as like, there's a reason for those extra ingredients. They're not just there for the fun of it or for like potentially harmful ingredients. They're there, as you said, to help them break down effectively.
Yeah. Like I said, if your tablet doesn't work, the
Right.
contents don't matter. So,
Okay.
you know,
And that's where the adage bedpan bullets comes from, because some of the common name brands will go out the other way and look in the same way they did coming in. So they're not breaking down effectively in a sense.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've heard that. Yes, like I appreciate from a scientist kind of breaking things down, making it as understandable as possible for the lay public, because it is overwhelming. It's like, it's cool. I see all this vitamin C and stuff in here, but like, why is this other stuff here? And I appreciate you kind of making it like, hopefully make sense to the members in the group, because that's, again, it's like a common thing I see every couple of days. What is good vitamin C, but I don't want any extra ingredients. There's a reason it's there, like we said, from that perspective. And again, I'm sure you receive these questions every day.
Yeah, no, like I said, yeah, I get stuff that's just absolutely crazy. I've got to go. I just got like an emergency call.
Oh, no worries.
And it's getting a little long anyway, so I don't want to like
Yeah,
bore
yeah.
everyone to death, but we can call this part one. We can do it again later. We can do it again.
Absolutely.
And of course, I love talking about all things supplement, health, nutrition, sports, all
Right.
this stuff. So
Yeah, I like I said, I appreciate it. And anyone that's Russell's out there, Ask the Scientist is an amazing page on Facebook where he posts a lot of great information. So you'll find a lot of his insider there as well.
yeah, I have a Facebook, the Facebook page, Ask the Scientist, with the S at the end, Ask the Scientists.
Awesome.
Both the website and a Facebook page has a lot of great information, good articles. The Facebook page is not product. It's not an advertisement for the company. It's just general health and nutrition articles and research. And the website, for the most part, there's information on products, but we keep that half separate from the other half. If you're not looking for that, you can go read a ton of good lifestyle related articles and health articles. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much for what you do. And thank you for being here today.
yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, everybody, have a great weekend.